What up? What up? What up? What up? Let me set something up real quick because I don't go live much. But let's see what it looks like on my side. Bear with me. Bear with me. Let's see. Let's see. Content, live, edit. So we're going to be watching Candace Owens because they just came out with a video. Shout out the person that's watching this, you know what I'm saying? Let me see what's going on. Is that Reese? Oh, what up, Reese? What's the word? What's the word? I'm trying to see what's up with this live real quick. I'm messing around, seeing what's going on. All right. Let's get these things. Let's get it popping. Listen, I just had a long day. Came back from a little basketball thing. I was watching basketball. I don't play no more. I'm fully retired. So now I just watch and I do my own thing. As you know, I'm fresh. You know what I mean? Let me hide the chain real quick. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good right now. I got the muscles out. Watch on. It's a difference. It's a difference when you start to level up a little bit. That's all I'm gonna say. It do hit different. It do hit different. Shout out my man Reese out there. But like I said, I want to watch this Candace Owens video. I wanted to go to sleep, but I'm gonna fight it. I'm gonna grind it out. I'm gonna thug it out, and let's see what's going on. Let's get this thing set up. Let's get this thing set up.
Women, they don't want to stay at home when you pull them. They just want flexible working hours and flexible working conditions like you have. And I think we should all advocate for that. It's not one or the other. But when you sit here and you go, you'll be more fulfilled doing this, then spend all your time doing that. We would love for you to leave the public eye and go focus on what makes you fulfilled.
Okay. Hi, my name is Candace Owens. I am a podcaster, a mother, a wife, and also the author of the upcoming book, Make Him a Sandwich. And today I am surrounded by 20 feminists.
All right, so I know a lot of people, I ain't gonna lie, a lot of people in the Black community don't like Candace Owens. Now, she's smart. That's one thing I'll give it to her. She is smart at the end of the day. She knows her numbers. She does her research. She's a great debater. Nobody can't take that away from her. Candace Owens is a great debater. Now, does she say a lot of controversial things? Didn't she make that George Floyd documentary saying that he was on drugs and stuff? I didn't understand that. Like I said, Candace Owens can sometimes go far out the way out there. So I'm not sitting here saying that she's always right, but you got to give it to her. She's not a dumb woman. She knows what she's doing, and she knows what she's talking about in a lot of instances. So
my first claim is that the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm Samaya.
Samaya, nice to meet you. I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you too. So my question for you is, statistics show that 60% of women who are murdered by their intimate partners, murdered by someone that they are in close relations with. That's according to the UN from 2023.
Yeah.
So how is it that, women are so valued, quote unquote, in the home, and yet that's the place where they're at the most danger?
Okay, so I'm not sure what that has to do with the sexual revolution.
Right, the sexual revolution.
The first claim.
The sexual revolution gave.
I'm happy to answer it. I'm just saying that, if you broaden that statistic, you are more likely in general.
Like I said, I'm new to this live stream. Reese, I can put your comment up on the screen. I ain't know that. Like I said, it different when you start working with these gadgets and everything. But yeah, they play musical chairs in this show a lot. They don't play. They try to get to the seat because there's 20 of them. There's 20 of them, and there's 20 people that got a lot of things to say. So, yeah, man.
just to be murdered by somebody you know. So of course,
But men are much less likely to be murdered by, their
that's
intimate
not
partners.
true.
Yes,
It
is.
Yeah, I'm sure, because men are less likely to be murdered by women. Full stop. Exactly. So that statistic makes sense to me. I'm still not sure how this correlates to whether or not
The
the
sexual revolution increased women's ability to leave the house, women's ability to control their own reproductive capabilities, women's ability to, control their own capacity within the workforce in regards to their own sexual capacity. So it is the very fact that the sexual revolution happened that made our access to the workplace much more, or just the public sphere in general, much more easy. So without the sexual revolution, women would be much more confined to the place where they're at the most danger. Isn't that true?
So you think that, just so I'm trying to understand your argument here, you think that if we didn't have the sexual revolution, less women or more women would be murdered? Are you saying that women are
more women would be murdered for sure?
Okay. I disagree with that. I still don't think it has anything to do with the claim that women are infinitely less happy because of the sexual revolution, which has devalued women.
I think you'd probably be less happy if you're being murdered.
Oh.
Anyone disagree?
Okay, yeah, I don't, okay. Okay. There is definitely a correlation between personal relationships and domestic violence. And just to be clear, if we're talking about just a monogamous relationships, the most violent relationships that are on the books are between lesbian partners. Yes, when people are intimate,
that's not a true
that is actually true.
No, the statistic you're talking about is people who have faced domestic violence. Lesbians, yes, are more likely to have faced domestic violence, but that's because they typically came from relationships with men in which they were mistreated.
Lesbian relationships are the most violent relationships that we have on the books.
But we can move on.
They can fact check that claim. The point being,
what the heck? We talking about lesbian relationships, and how's she talking about because they had previous relationship with men? How does she know that? And she brought up a claim that basically 60% of women get murdered in a relationship, and also was saying that it's from somebody that they know. My thing is, this is my thing, and like I said, the statistics sometimes doesn't show it all, but I would like to know how much of that 60% of people that are getting murdered in relationships actually married, or are they just boyfriend and girlfriend shacking up? Now, if it's 60% in marriages getting murdered, now that's a different story. That's crazy. But if I had to guess that number and why it's so high, I think this is a lot to do with baby mama drama, baby daddy, a lot of stuff like that. So we gotta, like I said, we gotta be careful here, because there's a difference between being married and being in a relationship.
Is that it's not exactly a stunning statistic to say that when people are in relationships, period, whether those relationships are homosexual, whether they're married,
you're saying that the sexual revolution.
Let me finish. I've let you try to explain how this is correlated to happiness, and I don't think it does. I actually think you're having a different debate right now. But yes, absolutely, it makes perfect sense that you are more likely in general when you are in a relationship, because people are driven by anger by people that they know, whether or not we're talking about boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, a husband and a wife, a husband and a husband, or a wife and a wife. Yes, of course, the instances of domestic violence are going to take place when you're inside of a home. But the sexual revolution, encouraging women to give up their goods for free, which is what I'm speaking about, and encouraging men not to marry these women or to have long-term relationships, what I am saying is a direct contributor to their unhappiness, because women are giving up their goods for free and women are now entering the workplace, and that does not actually make them happy.
Okay, pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please.
I like when she stated that people are more likely to be in these more violent things because they are confined to one space and that they love, and there's so much emotions involved in relationships. I ain't gonna lie, my girl cheated on me. There's a moment I gotta think about. There is a moment. I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I never was in a situation like that. Many men walk into a lot of situations, or women walk in a lot of situations with, if your partner was laying there with another person, what are you gonna do? What are you going to do? Because I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be honest with you.
Turn to your seat.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you? I'm Candace.
Nice to meet you. I'm Julian. My pronouns are they, them. It's very interesting to think of it when we just think about the gender binary. It's, how do we place value on human beings in general? And so when we think about, placing value, that comes from a place of power, right? So I think let's select like the Victorian era. You have this dominant group of people coming from white supremacy, deciding who gets to have a proper status in the world. And so that is already like taking human beings and devaluing them. And so what the sexual revolution did was to help people seek out empowerment, which increased value no matter the gender. So when it comes to sexual revolution, let's look at one contribution is sex education. I'm actually an educator. I teach sociology and LGBTQ studies. And I have absolutely seen the positive outcome with the sexual revolution and sex education and seen people empower themselves. And with that comes safety when it comes to decreasing STIs, abuse, sexual assault. Again, people get to empower themselves of all genders. And I know earlier you mentioned about violence amongst lesbians and sapphic community, which I do identify within. All genders can be subjected to violence.
That was the point I was making. So I wasn't sure of how her claim was relating to what we were talking about, whether or not it makes people happy or unhappy. Relationships are obviously a ground where there can be violence.
I guess I could just wrap it up by saying, like, if we all have access to like sex education through the incredible work of feminists through the sexual revolution, we are able to gain access to information and gain skills to create an equitable society, egalitarian within our relationships, whether it be platonic or romantic. I'm so grateful for those feminists who have fought for us so we can gain those spaces and create a healthier society.
Okay. Are you a believer in the government doing everything that it can to make people happy?
So when it comes, as someone that teaches in the public sector, I understand the concern when it comes to like, what is a teacher, what kind of information they're providing to the students. I do believe that we, as a teacher, I should be able to give that sort of information. Again, I teach college students. One of my claims is I believe that we should mandate sex education amongst college students. So yes, I do.
Hey man, shout out to Gig Hustler PJ, man. That's my dog. I still watch you. Keep grinding out there. Keep doing your thing. Appreciate the love. But I don't know what this woman's talking about, to be honest. Like, I, of course, agree that we should definitely be educating ourselves and like sexual things like that. The problem that most people were having was you were trying to teach just the little kids. You was trying to bring this to like the elementary age, the middle school age, where kids are confused and that it's like, it's at its peak of now you're trying to mold these kids into believing that they're other sexes, they're other genders. You got kids thinking that it's cool or it's okay to think you're something that you weren't born to be. Now, of course, listen, I don't got no problem with the LGBTQ. After you get 18, I think you should do what you want to do. Be who you want to be with and just rock out. But before 18, personally, me, I don't think that you in a class settings should be teaching kids anything other than what they were raised and also what they came out. If you were a boy, you're a boy. If you're a girl, you're a girl. At the end of the day, so most people had an issue with that. We didn't have an issue with, anything else outside of that. So no, when you talk about kids, we're going to speak up. We're going to fight back. And that's where we put our foot down. That's where we put our foot down.
Want the state, I would like the government to give us those resources so we can implement that curriculum.
Okay. Would you, are you consider yourself a feminist, I'm assuming?
Queer feminist. There's variations, right?
What is a queer feminist as opposed to a feminist, just so I understand?
Well, so I heavily believe in queer theory. So, the gender binary that we understand, it comes from.
Yeah, listen, my man's is right on point. She keeps using these words. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know about this queer stuff and different things like that. Like I said, I don't dive deep into all that stuff, but she confuses me in a lot of issues. When she starts talking about queer, binary, this, gender fluid, all this stuff, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not going to call you him, they, he, she, we, thee. I'm going to call you her because you look like a her. I'm not going down that path.
Colonization.
You're not going to make me.
So someone who is mixed race, family from Mexico, we have the Muxches in Mexico, which is an indigenous tribe. They believed in gender fluidity. And then you have European colonizers coming who dismantle that. And now everything that we understand when it comes to gender is a Western lens. So from a
So
queer,
you don't even think women exist, I'm guessing.
I think everyone should be empowered to figure out their identity and explore the language that best describes themselves. So freedom, America, right? America, freedom. And I want to believe in that when it comes to identity.
Right.
Everyone should have the freedom to decide how they want to identify, as long as they're not causing harm. But that's where we get into the debate, what is harm?
So just, again, to be clear, to go back to this claim, we are debating female happiness.
Mm-hmm.
You are saying you do not identify as a female.
I identify with all gender expressions. So from masculinity to femininity.
So I'm just saying, are you just saying that as a part of queer theory, you're debating whether or not women are happier after the sexual revolution? I'm just trying to understand, because it seems like you're debating queer theory as opposed to female.
I believe all genders benefit from the sexual revolution.
Yeah, get her out. Get her out. I'm glad they finally got her out of there. What is she? You're not a female? You don't identify as a female. Then what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you sitting down talking to us right now?
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
They're clapping? Oh.
Hello,
I'm Zena.
Zena. Very much like your name.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Can we start with the beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman, yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes two things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right, for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to the sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free, because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely. If you're going to be having.
Yes. Like, what are you talking? Like, look at this guy. Look at this guy. He thinks she's crazy. I think you're crazy. Yes, a woman's worth has a bit to do with your sexual things that you put out there. I hate this. Listen, we gotta come to a realization here that we are people that we go off of what we see. You're not going to make people think that if a girl is walking down the street in a bikini and got all her cheeks out, got all her buns out, you're not about to sit here and make me feel bad for thinking she's easy and that I can go crazy on her. You're not going to make me feel bad about that. You're not going to make me feel bad to make me think that she gives it up easy. I go off of what I see. I go off of what I observe. And I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt in most of that situation. You a hoe. You a hoe. You a hoe if you walk out like a hoe. It is what it is. Now, if I dressed up in a doctor's suit and I roam the streets and all that stuff, and somebody falls down and collapses, and you looking at me like, doctor, help. And I'm like, I'm not no doctor. What, goofy, why you got the doctor suit on? That's what I'm saying. Like, people really drive me crazy because they don't want things to tie into what you are, but it is what it is. Men love women. Men look at women and they tie that with sex and they tie that with value. If women are easy, give it up easily, then that devalues them, because that's what men like. That's what men deem as worthy. They don't want an easy woman. It's simple as that.
Multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship. Certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when the market is throwing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so just to connect the dots for you, when women are having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So
yes. So
men define a woman's worth.
Well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth, because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Okay, so you're saying
Not work.
in all cases,
Mhm.
a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family. Like
That's
and
exactly what I'm saying.
And this is going to work in all cases. You're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without.
Why are you hopping on a debate trying to say all or that? Like, I hate when people do that. We're talking about the majority here. We're trying to see what's going on with the majority, not one or two damn people. We're talking about a majority.
To being tied to other people in the case of family.
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are
Always.
exceptional cases, but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So what you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you, or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we see that they also have been the most open in regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. We see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those type of countries?
So I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No, okay. Well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognized that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud. And they were unable to reproduce these studies. And they also found that the data had been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we, let's measure, then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness. How can we measure happiness? So I would.
I'm about to say, they talking about happiness, which I can sit here and tell you I'm happy when I'm really not. But the argument that this lady is making, in a sense, is Candace Owens is saying family is the best scenario. At the end of the day, family is the best scenario, and that most people are, quote unquote, most happy with a good family and being in a good family structure. This woman is like, oh, it's not all. Some women like being single and things of that nature. And like I said, I talked to the majority. I think most people do want a family. If you asked a random person today, they're like, yeah, I want to be married. I want to have a family. And so that's what we need to start pushing. We live in a society now where it's women want to be single. Even men now don't really want to get into relationships because of the risk involved, but also we aren't connecting. We're just not connecting. Men and women are not connecting right now because we aren't seeing things eye to eye. And I'm not going to lie to you. I live in a Black community. I'm going to talk about the Black community one. And I'm going to say that women don't want to listen to men nowadays. They do not want to listen to men. They don't care who you are. Women truly are starting to believe that they know everything. And if you look at the different communities as well, the Black community itself, I think, is the only community where the women don't respect the men. Only community. If you talk about the Asian community, those women respect the Asian men. You talk about Puerto Rican, I would say most of them too. I think we're the only community where the women look at us like, why should I listen to you? I can do it on my own. I had an argument with a girl the other day. And it's just sad. Like, listen, we don't got a beef, but also there got to be a mutual agreement here of like, yo, baby girl, stop trying to control everything. I got you. I'm gonna take care of you.
Say
It's okay.
suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be
Of course, right? But we would have
at.
to. We can say. I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone's happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in
Okay,
society.
that's what I'm getting at. So
Right,
I
but
think
we have to
women are-
look at the cause, right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally. That's not a sign that us entering the workforce suddenly made us
How
all
is
very
it a
happy.
cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this
We're
cause of
taking
the
opioids
entering
at a
the
higher
workforce?
rate.
How is this a cause of entering
Because
the
I
workforce?
think women are being
You think?
put on a pathway aspirationally.
But you're gonna have to. You're saying you think this, right? But where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating the claim. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job.
Did you just hear somebody say period? Like, what are we doing? But listen, I think she was all right. I like that debate a little bit. And she don't look that bad. She do need to fix a little, she got a little tooth sticking out. But outside of that, she look all right. Little slim joint.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
So when we're talking about the value of women on a societal scale and how we view each other, right?
All right, hold on. I gotta say this before we get to this lady. The white people have entered the chat. Listen, white lady's about to give her experience, but I'm here to tell you, listen, this whole madness started from the white community. Can we be real? The white men caused all this. They're the ones who gave into the women. They're the ones who are scared to make any decisions nowadays. They are the ones that brought all this to us nowadays, this feminine movement, all this stuff. The white men. So, and the white women too, because the white women are people that started the feminist movement and then wanted to call on the sisters to help them out. But I want to hear her perspective, man. I want to hear her perspective, but I wanted just to let you guys know that it was her community that started it.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Nice to meet you.
So when we're talking about the value of women on a societal scale and how we view each other, right? When you're devaluing us, you're objectifying us. And follow me, I promise. But rape rates have gone down by about half in the last 20 years, right? So if you're saying we're less valuable now, why wouldn't we be suffering at a higher rate?
So is the argument that you're making, just so I understand, that because women are giving up sex for free, they're not being raped?
Every study shows rape is not correlated with just sexual gratification. It is a power structure.
Okay.
So it is about objectifying and abusing women when you rape them, not about whether or not you want sex. What I am saying is that women are less objectified, so therefore we are being raped less.
Okay, so you think that in today's society,
What?
because this is pretty wild for me. In the 1950s, you're saying women were more objectified than today in the land of OnlyFans, the Kardashian clan, and women that are essentially putting up their boobs and butts for free on Instagram. You're saying we finally have achieved less objectification, where women can't even get onto an advertising. You can't even advertise a bag without them having to be naked in order for them to get a career as a model. You're saying, oh, great, we've achieved actually less objectification.
I would like to see if this lady lies her way out of this, but yeah, that was a crazy statement she just made. Crazy.
So I'm not trying to suggest that I think that the over-commodification of women's bodies is positive. But what I am saying is that when you're going to the 1950s, that we shouldn't put this glazed look of, oh, it was so happy. We had single income households and we got to stay home. We also had a pill popping problem. We also were viewed as maids. Like we were seen as a house appliance far more than we were as people. And so when you have that kind of objectification where you are in a subservient position, I think we're facing a different form today. but I think that rape is a signifier of a contradiction to your statement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense, but I do want to rebut it on a couple of points. So first, I just want to say,
I want to say, like, she's saying the grape stat is like her end all be all to why today is better than back then, which I think is a bad argument. I will say that too. This narrative that like women were just back in the day like some slaves or like stayed at home and like stop it. Like you're trying to brainwash us to think that all men were evil back then. Anytime somebody talks about the past, they talk about how bad men were and things of that nature. It's like no, and I'm not going for it no more. Like, stop acting like there was a lot of men back then that had to protect, provided, looked after their women, sacrificed. Like, do you not know that work back then was hard as mess? People were working in like the steel industry. People were getting up every day doing labor jobs, like killing themselves, breaking their backs while the woman stayed home, took care of what she needed to take care of. But stop acting like men were just back beating women and not going to work or something. Like, yes, there's instances. Yes, there's scenarios and situations that go on. But most men are hardworking and built the world now that we live in today to make it easy for you. So, like I said, this narrative that like back then was so terrible, I hate that. Like, I hate it.
Suggesting that objectification has gone downward since the 1950s is wild. That's just a firm no. That is not the truth, and you know that's not true.
Wait, so do you feel
But
like
hold on, let me answer your
like,
second thing.
Okay.
Second thing, you then brought up, okay, women were at home, but they were pill popping. Well, you then have to acknowledge we're actually popping more pills now, right? So we have actually increased our amount of pill popping. Women are having overdoses on opioids. And on top of that, since I think 1999, by rate, we are increasing our opioid use compared to men. So women are not popping pills less because we're going into the workforce. That's actually not true at all either. We're also, like I said to you, consuming alcohol more and binge drinking more than we did in the 1950s, which is why I was trying to get her to say, we need to look at actually give me any reasonable metric of how we can define happiness. Because it's hard, right? Are you happy? Yes or no?
Sure, but wait, hold on. We're actually avoiding what my original point was about rape being the signifier.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
That was
Thank
a bad
you.
debate.
Nice to meet you.
That was a bad debate.
Hi.
Hi,
I like your hat.
Whitney Shanahan.
Nice to meet you.
I am fascinated by your claim that women have lost happiness since the sexual revolution, since the 1950s. Do you think that there's any tie to happiness and freedom and happiness and choice?
Mhm.
Because since 1950s, since the sexual revolution, women have gotten exponentially more freedom and more choice. And for me, as a mother and as a woman, having the freedom to choose what I do, to make my own destiny, makes me infinitely more happy than, say, back before the sexual revolution when I couldn't get a bank account, couldn't get a home loan, couldn't work outside the home, couldn't travel around without a man, couldn't control my own reproduction. So I feel that happiness, personally, my belief, is tied to our ability to have freedom. And I think that in the United States, protecting freedom and our individual freedoms is what's going to lead us to happiness.
Did you go to college?
So before Candace Owens gets into this, what she says makes sense. It makes sense that you would think that the more freedom that women got and the more choice that women got, that they should be more happy. And I will say that I think that the numbers and the results today aren't backing that information up. Women are not happy today because there's a lot of baby mamas out here, kids being raised out of wedlock. So that means that they're now in a situation where they got to raise a kid by themselves. They got to work this job with no support. And that how can I say this? Listen, I don't want to go. Should I go all the way out there? I'm about to go all the way out there. Women make terrible decisions, and we can just see that off of the people that they deal with. Women control sex. If women did not want to have sex, they didn't have to have sex. Like, they can choose who they deal with. They can choose who they deal with. at the end of the day, because men, of course, men are going to go after women, especially if you're a good-looking woman nowadays. You can get any man basically that you want, but they choose wrong every time. So the more freedom, the more choices, women start to make irrational decisions. Like back in the day, what up, Ramsey? What up, Ramsey? Like back in the day, women used to be shamed when they had a kid. Women used to be shamed when they had kids out of wedlock and things of that nature. Like now, it's looked at as cool. You go on social media, everybody's popping up with a baby, and we don't know where the father's at. Like now, like I said, now it's just a crazy scenario where you would believe that what she's saying is true, but like I said, it's not coming out like that. But let's see what Candace Owens got to say.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Did you?
So yes, I did. So you have a degree.
Absolutely.
Now,
first off, shout out to my dog Ramsey out there. Shout out to my man's Ramsey. As you can see, he commented. Yeah, man, I'm live. I'm trying to see what this live is looking like. I'm just working on this for when it's time to really go live consistently. But it's cool right now. It's cool. I'm chilling.
when you went to college, did you go to college because it was simply something that you wanted to do? Or did you think that I have to go to college because in order to get a job, I have to have a college degree?
I went to college for art because I was fascinated with art.
Okay. It's just answering my question. Did you go to college? Was that the only reason you went to college? Or did you think that I might want to do something in art, so I have to go to college like for my career?
I went to school because I wanted to expand my horizons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's why most people go to university.
Yeah,
Why
so
did you go?
That's actually not
Why
true.
did
A lot
you
of
go?
I went, and I think a lot of people go because there's a pressure that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So
Okay.
taking away choices doesn't make people happier. Taking
but
away
I'm
freedoms
actually
doesn't make people happier.
I'm disagreeing with you on the idea that people are feeling more free by financial pressure. I think financial pressure makes people feel remarkably less free.
So you want no bank accounts again? Women not to have credit cards?
I'm
no
not
bank
saying that
accounts?
women shouldn't have access to credit cards or banking accounts. You're
Well,
putting
that-
words in my mouth. So why don't you respond to the words that I'm saying?
Well, less financial pressure. If I don't have a bank account, that's a lot less financial pressure, I guess, right?
Financial pressure in terms of most people that go to college, and I'm counting myself among them, it's because typically in order to get the job that you're being sold is going to make you infinitely happier and infinitely more free, it just requires a college degree. And most of these people, to be clear, have to put themselves, the majority of people have to put themselves into debt. And I don't think anybody would describe debt as a form of freedom, right? I don't think anybody would realistically say,
Let's get back to happiness. So
No,
we're
no.
here to talk about happiness
but you-
and how the sexual revolution,
Okay.
and we're not talking about college debt.
I think it's important because we're talking about freedom. You just said that the reason why I feel happy is because I have more freedom. And I am saying that financial restraints and debt doesn't make people feel more free.
So let's
I'm countering-
eliminate the debt.
Well,
Let's eliminate college debt.
let's-
Maybe we should have free
Well,
college here in the
okay.
U.S. That sounds great.
So,
Great idea, Candace.
now-
I love that idea. All right.
Okay.
Love it. Woo! Champion for the people.
Another terrible debater. This is tough. I don't know how she's doing it right now because they're not even like debating on no logical type sense. Everything is like, like I said, there's no concrete evidence getting thrown out there. There's no statistics being thrown out. It's just them talking at this point. I want a good debate. I want to see Candace Owens get challenged and her go back at these people. But Ramsey, I don't know if this is going to be consistent yet. I don't know. I want to do it consistently. Maybe I might do it once a week on Sunday. Once a week on Sunday night, I might do it. Because I'm not going to lie, a couple people joined this live right here since I've been live the last 40 minutes. So I might do it on Sunday around like 9, 10 o'clock maybe at night. It's cool. I like it.
Girl. Very nice.
All right, return to your seat.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you any.
Fulfillment as
Whoa. They about to fight running for the chair? He almost... Is that Jerome Bettis? Oh, a truck thief.
Oh, hi, Candace. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm John. Okay, so I feel like a lot of your arguments today are very rooted in a sort of old school perspective. I have to be honest. Like, I think,
Mm.
and I'm not trying to be insulting whatsoever. I feel as though most people would identify that claim as pretty extreme and pretty like,
Children are extreme.
well, no, that women would get more happiness inherently from raising kids than having a job or deciding what they want to do with their lives.
Why is that? I'm just curious. Why would having children, which is just a natural biological conclusion, be something that sounds extreme?
I just
to
said
you?
inherently.
Inherently.
That's the inherent
extreme.
expectation.
Yeah.
That's better for
It's inherent because it's biological. So I think when we think about things that are inherent, I think biology is a good thing to start with, right? So biologically speaking, men and women come together, they form families, and that's the reason why you're sitting here. That's the reason that I'm sitting here, is because biology is inherent.
Well,
So
I was
saying
child-
it's just natural order that we're speaking about, right?
Okay, let's break it down. So why do you believe that? Why do you believe that?
Why do I believe that women
Why do you inherently are happier? Yeah.
you keep stressing this word inherent. So,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I think because it speaks to natural order, and every piece of life, I think, is enriched by
You
children.
don't think it's natural for women to get to decide what they want to do with their lives?
I do not think that saying women can decide whether or not they want to go to work or have children is problematic. What I'm saying to you is that women will get the most fulfillment from having a family.
Because it's natural.
It's natural, but also children are wonderful and beautiful and spiritually divine creatures. I mean, they're amazing. There's everything about having a child. Yes, it's a lot of work. It's beautiful.
I hear that. Well,
Yeah.
Okay, what if there's a little girl born and it's her dream her entire life to be an author or to be, on TV or
Oh man, are you guys taking advice from guys like this? Like this, he's a prime example of why men are weak, and we're going downhill today. This guy is what's going on? It's okay to take things from back in the day. So he's trying to sit here and act like it's a crime, or it sounds like you are born in 1900s and where the family's so important. Yes, family's important. Like all that stuff about women, what about she has a dream job and why can't she pick her job over a child? She can, and her whole life go great with her. But I'm telling you, it's probably gonna be lonely it's lonely by yourself. And also when you die, when it's that time you're at the old age and people are trying to remember you, they're not going to care about your job. When I think about my great grandma, I don't know what job she made. I know the people that she helped. I know the things that she took care of. I know the sacrifices that she made. So this idea that women should care about a job, or why can't she care about a job more than having a family, it's ridiculous. Like, because it's no purpose. That job is not a purpose.
any of these things, and having children is very expensive. It takes a lot of time. So how is it better for that, and I understand this is hypothetical, but that hypothetical little girl to have children than to pursue these things that would make her happy as she gets older?
I just think that if she publishes the book and she has a child, she would agree with me that the child was more fulfilling and made her happy. That's what I'm happier than the book did, is what I'm saying. And I say this as a published author of a New York Times. I would choose my children over my best-selling book. And I was that little girl who had a dream that it would be really great if I could share my thoughts and ideas in a book. But it is utter insanity for me to reflect on that and say that I would have rather published Blackout than to have my 3 children.
But why is it rather? You see what I'm saying?
It's not rather. I'm just saying
Well, that's your claim. That's your claim, is that it's better.
It will be more fulfilled.
Right.
Yes.
So rather.
Well, if it's an either or, if you're saying it's an either or, I'm just saying that if these 2 things have happened in your life, the thing that will bring you more spiritual fulfillment will be children. And so women who are neglecting that, who are neglecting the pathway to, strive toward family because they think their career is going to hug them at night, or they think that when they're on their deathbed, their career is going to come up next to them and say, you were so great to me. I think that they've stepped into a delusion, and I'm hopeful that they wake up from it before it's too late.
All right, pause.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Facto. I completely agree with Candace Owens. At the end of the day, if you did have a choice, either your career or your children, if you got to think about it, You a little crazy in my book. Hey man, shout out to Daniel John, man. Shout out Daniel. But shout out to Daniel John. He said, why is dude there defending feminazis? I don't know why he's defending them. Like I said, we're living in a culture now where men are weak. Men are weak. Like this is sad. Like this is the people we gotta look out for. This is the people that's trying to raise the next children, trying to raise the next generation. And I'm not for it.
Hi.
Naima,
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so currently women make up about 47% of the workforce. If this were the case and that women were just inherently unhappy or unfulfilled working and would just prefer to be at home, why don't they?
Because
whoa, let me answer that question. Women make up most of the workforce because they have to. They are struggling. They're out here living paycheck to paycheck, raising kids with no man in the household. They have to. This ain't a thing where it's like, oh, most women are out here like, oh, I want to work. No, they gotta work.
We've made that due to prior feminist waves nearly impossible, because now, which I believe that the reason that the government wanted women to enter the workforce is because it gave them an opportunity to tax a household twice. And so this goes back to what I was saying, is that there's a lot of financial pressure that is being exerted on young women to enter the workforce. And they do so blindly under this illusion that somehow entering the workforce is going to make you more fulfilled, like getting yourself into 6 figures of debt going to college to then take on a career and be in debt and having to pay student loans while you make 35K is going to make you happier. And I'm saying that isn't actually true.
Okay, so I hear that.
Yeah.
At the same time, would you not agree that that women can both have a career and have children? I mean, you are actively doing that right now.
And I want to be very clear, because I am actively doing it right now. I would be someone that you would call an exception because I get to work from home. I get to wake up in the morning. I don't have a boss, right? I don't have to go into the office from 9 to 5. I get to then therefore spend the entire morning with my children.
So you're an exception, and the 47% of women that make up our labor force are also an exception?
No, the exact opposite. So I'm trying to make it more realistic, because I think it's really bad form when people who are able to stay at home, right, and are able to start working at 1:00 p.m. as I do after being around their children. The children are running around all day. Will then preach to you that every woman can have this. That's not the reality. The reality is that the overwhelming majority of people are stuck behind a desk all day, and they're not happy. They're not doing work that gratifies them at all. And at the same time, they're suspending.
Well, that's just what career you've chosen. But I think that the issue with your
work a 9 to 5, I think that's
okay. Yes, but
right?
if it's the job that is making them unhappy, then maybe they should have chosen a different career path and not the structure of the career itself. But my issue with this is that not only is it claiming that women can't both be mothers and have jobs, which we know to be true because millions of women do that. My mother does that. You are actively doing it right now. But it also is qualifying what every single woman in this country wants without any clear evidence. I mean, there's 169 million women in this country over. How can you say that you know exactly what every woman secretly wants? Are you asking them?
That wasn't my claim that I secretly know what every single woman wants. I'm saying that if you measure up at the end of your life, what brought you more fulfillment, your career or a children, raising children in your family, we will discover that, and there actually have been studies, people that have gone to people on their deathbeds, and the number one regret that people had was that they gave too much to their careers. And this includes men, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, of course, human relation is going to be valued over money and profit.
So then
but
you
at
don't
the same
disagree
time,
with,
what
you
does
don't
that
disagree
even
with my arguments
I do
at all.
disagree with
You're
your
agreeing with my
Yes,
argument.
humans prefer humans over a job, but that's not just singular to women. That's everyone. And my question is, what does that even have to, what is the goal of that?
That should be singular to women. As a man, for my men out there, go up, get your butt to work, put your purpose, put your responsibilities, put everything above your family. Let me break it down like this. You should be working your butt off. You should be sacrificing. You should be getting up every day and working to make a better life for the people around you. So as this woman saying that it should be both ways, no. Men and women are not the same. And that's what we got to keep on reminding people is The men are supposed to be out here working their butts off and killing themselves. If that is what they need to do to put the people around them in a better position, that's what they're supposed to do. That's why we're stronger, like physically stronger. That's why we don't bear children, because we don't have to be off for 9 months. Like, there's certain things that we're literally built to do so we can provide and do the things necessary to, like I said, have a better situation around us. So no, we're not the same. We shouldn't be trying to put family and things like that over actually providing for the family, because if I can't provide for the family, we're all fucked. So yes, men, put your purpose above everything.
Should every woman quit working and just have a child?
Well, I'm just trying to warn you that if you decide to suspend that pursuit of family because you think that you have to first climb the ladder, a lot of women make that mistake and they don't end up finding a partner.
But that's their right. It's free will.
You
We
will
live in a
definitely
free
have a right to
country.
make
You
a
don't get to
mistake.
say what people should and shouldn't do.
I don't think my claim is this is what people should or should not do. I'm just simply stating that my claim is that you will be more fulfilled if you focus on
But you don't
trying
get to decide
build
what
a
other
family.
people are fulfilled by.
Okay, I'm making my claim here that women are infinitely more fulfilled in the household and raising children than they are taking that 9-to-5 job.
But you have no evidence of that. In fact, you are evidence against your own claim.
I'm not evidence against my own claim.
You are.
I'm saying
You're
that
here at work right now.
I've literally said, I am telling you, women cannot have it all. That is an illusion, and that is an illusion that is stressing women out. And I think it is the reason why so many women are turning to popping pills, why there's been such a significant, more than 1,000% increase
But
since
men can have it all.
1999.
Men can be fathers and have a job, but women can't do that.
I don't think you can have it all.
It sounds like you're devaluing women. I think that women can do
No,
everything
it
that a
sounds
man
like
can
women
do,
is our
and men have done this historically throughout time
It is,
immemorial.
I think women is our debate topic today. So
Yeah,
we're
but
not,
I mean,
we're not
women exist in a society with men. We are comparing
women are
and
trying
men.
to be both women and men, and that is why women are unhappy today, is because actually what's quite ironic about the feminist movement is that
I think women are just trying to be people.
I think women have been taught that being a woman is not enough and that you have to also aspire to be a man, and that's the irony. It's like a psychological conditioning. What feminists went out and did and said is that in order for women to have value, women need to be like men. And I'm
Okay,
saying
Candace,
that
can I
actually women
propose a
and men are
hypothetical?
biologically different. There are differences in our behavior. There are differences in our desires. And I think evidence of the feminist movement, by the way, shows us that, because even when women enter into the college education space, the pathways of career that we choose are different from men because we're biologically different, right?
Okay, so let's say that this is true, that women truly are more fulfilled at home. Now, the average cost of raising a child a year is around $21,000 or more. So my issue is, are you saying that women should just suddenly stop working and now the onus is entirely on men? Like, the society that you're pitching is not sustainable economically.
It was,
and I think
it was sustained economically.
but it's not right
All
now.
right, pause.
currently.
Naima, you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Before we get to the next person, I think that was a better debate. I think Candace Owens, she definitely hit it the nail on the head in her last remarks when she talks about we're not the same. Men and women are not the same, because she tried to say that they can do everything that we can do, which is not true. But I also think, which was a great point, was that she brought up that women are trying to be men nowadays. And that is so true. Like, if you really want to get into it, and let's just look at a family dynamic. Let's say a man and a woman is in a family with one kid. Now, naturally, the mother is, majority of the time, is going to be more nurturing, is going to be more soft, is going to be more attentive in terms of what the kid has going on, in terms of grades, knowing specific things like teachers and things of that nature. That's the nature of it, and that's the dynamic. The man, on the other hand, is going to be more of the fatherly role, the more disciplinary, the more person that the kid looks up to, because maybe it's not around that much, but when it's around, things are better. The man's going to pay more attention to maybe what the kid's favorite superhero is and things of that nature. Like, there was like studies that show that we even like look at different things when it comes to kids. So we're not the same and we'll never be the same. But the dynamic works when we truly try to stay in our own frame in terms of what we can produce and what we can do. Now, when women start to try to act like men, that's why everything is getting messed up and mixed up, because they're trying to take on too much. My man's Daniel John here. He says feminism produces masculine women and feminine men. 110%. Daniel, please, have you seen a man yet that is speaking some sort of masculinity or some sort of hardworking message out there? I'm trying to see what these men got to say on this little 20 versus 1. But yeah, I don't think you can be a real masculine man and be feminine. Can we go there?
Hi,
Ceci.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So your claim is that women will be happier at home. I think you're conflating though happiness with importance, because I get what you're saying, where a woman can write a book and have kids, but the kids are always going to make her happier. But I think it just means that kids are always going to be more important, not necessarily make you happier. But also piggybacking on Naima, we don't live in an economy where people typically can have a one-income household,
Right.
whether it be the mom or dad that stays home. And so I think, and you keep bringing up the 1950s, which
Because it was right before the fact.
I just don't know if that's the period of time that you want to go back to.
No, it's just, I'm just going back to the first wave of
But
feminism.
you want to undo progress that's been done. So I'm curious as to what decade you'd be comfortable living in, especially as a Black woman.
Okay, so we're going to park aside.
Don't do it. And if we're talking about family dynamics, 1950s is a better family dynamic than today. We can argue that, and that's 100% facts. Even looking at it from a Black point of view, we were still at that time, we was married at a percent higher than 80% back then, for sure. And we had a real family structure, for sure. Even through hard times, even through Jim Crow and different things that was put in front of us, family-wise, we still stayed put. We still had our own community. So yes, if you want to have that argument, we can have that argument. I'd rather have that family dynamics back then than today. What are we talking about?
The race politics. So I want to focus on.
Okay, then as a woman, what period of time do you want to go back to?
Just as a woman, I think that it was probably a better environment for women when we understood that raising our children was fulfilling.
But some women still do understand that.
Right. And
a lot of women,
and I'm one of them.
And I'm here advocating for you to be able to live the life that you want, and for other women to be able to live the lives they want.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay. You have a career, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you work at? What field do you work in?
I do hair.
Okay. Wonderful. So I have both children and a career, as somebody pointed out. And so the fact that I'm saying that you will be infinitely more fulfilled at the end of the day by raising your children than you will be if you come home and you say, wow, I really crushed it dyeing somebody's hair today. What is it exactly that makes you angry about hearing that? Like, that's what I'm actually trying.
Nothing makes
I'm
me
trying
angry.
to get.
No,
I'm trying to get to the. I'm trying to get to the implicit revolution.
That's the thing, is that no one
when
is
someone
angry.
mentions children.
No, see, no one's angry when you mention children. I get angry, I guess, when you mention that someone should have a children, or you're trying to impose a lifestyle onto people that you want to live, which I think is kind of funny, because as someone who's anti-feminism, you practice it more than most women do. I mean, every time you get on your podcast, every time you collect a check, you're practicing feminism.
Okay, that's what you think.
No, that's what it is.
Actually,
she talking about, and I was about to say, like, when it comes to kids too, like, I hate how they truly believe that, like, if you don't want kids, it's selfish. As a woman, if you truly don't want kids, there's no other reasons than your own selfish ideas and needs. Like, I don't know. I might be different, but what's the purpose of truly living on this earth for 80 years and not produce nothing toward the next generation? Not put your time, your effort, sacrifice for something that you created. Like, I don't understand that mindset of, like, Why do that's selfish? It's
So
selfish.
without feminism,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to exist.
Yeah, people keep saying, I hate when people say that.
But
because
it's just the
it
truth.
just shows that you haven't done the research to even understand where the
Or you
feminism
don't know
came from,
history.
which was discovered. That's what I'm saying about you, because it means that you don't understand that a bunch of government officials in the CIA funded the feminist movement. So for all of your hatred for the patriarchy,
I'm so confused.
and
So
speaking
my
about
question
men,
is it bad that they
men
funded it or bad
wanted-
that it just happened?
Men wanted women to go into the workforce. The government, which had a lot of men, it was being
Are
run
you
by
talking about
men.
because World War II occurred and we had to
No,
go
I'm
to
talking-
factories,
I'm-
and then when we left the factories, they forced us back into the homes?
That's not what I'm saying at all. So let me tell you what I'm saying, and then you can respond to it.
Go for it.
Gloria Steinem is considered to be a feminist icon, right? Because she led these protests. She also had a bunch of music festivals. She got students involved. It is just a fact that Gloria Steinem was funded by the CIA, okay? The CIA, being the male-dominated CIA of the 50s and the 60s, funded those movements. So what do you think was the explicit aim? Do you think it was because the government really wanted you to be more free, that they wanted to encourage women to enter
Well,
the
I have to be honest with you,
workforce?
I couldn't speak on behalf of the government.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what their intention
Well, I think it's important
was
because you
with
just said that I don't know history. And I think it's pretty important if you're going to sit across from me and say, I don't know history, that you
Yeah,
learn a
but-
piece of history and then question as
You keep bringing up men, and I think it's funny because we should talk about men more. Like you brought up suicide, they're 4 times more likely to kill themselves.
which is why I don't
And while
believe-
women, we're twice as more often on antidepressants, but that's because we go out and do what we need to do to keep coping.
because we're not happy.
And we need to focus on men and the patriarchy because it's actually oppressed them just as much as women now emotionally, right? Because when we're kids, our parents teach us how to cross the street. Look both ways so you can get the other side unharmed. When a boy comes across a feeling, and I'm using men and boys here because they're the ones suffering, women are too, but emotionally, when they come across a feeling they haven't felt before, we have to teach them how to get to the other side and cope with it. Otherwise, they stay where they are. That anger and resentment builds. That's the feeling they become most comfortable with. That's the feeling they go to first in most situations.
All right,
So we need to
pause.
stop telling our boys that they don't cry because they do. They just do it alone and then they become even more alone.
She tried to give a speech at the end there. Listen, I don't agree with the speech. Boys don't cry. Boys do not cry. Fight to live another day.
All right. Jasmine,
meet you.
to meet you. Okay, so you say that women are more fulfilled at home with kids than going out into the workforce or getting educated, but that just really doesn't bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty.
You see them lips? That's she got some lip fillers on there. She looking crazy. The heck?
And bear out when you look at the stats, when you look at how working mothers are way less likely to be in poverty. Maternal education is the #1 predictor of childhood outcomes, better scores, getting higher incomes in the future, fewer behavioral problems, better mental health. So it's weird to me and college educated women are least likely to get divorced. And they're the only women, the top 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed. They're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that? Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay. Because I know, like I said, I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was.
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
Right.
University of
Okay.
California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better,
Okay.
and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental.
So
I'm gonna let Candace Owens get her.
Just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is
right?
that obvious? Because you said so?
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety. And
that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are choosing their careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto.
We got this lip filler woman saying everything's not true and her stats is right. Listen, before I get off this thing, because I've been on here for an hour, I want to listen to one more debate. I seen that this person, so there's a person on here that she's a little bit known, but I want to get down to their argument. That's the reason that really made me get on this live. So let's watch this. Let's get into it. And then I'm going to wrap this live up and call it a night. Go to sleep, man. I got stuff to do tomorrow.
We live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy.
Hi, hello.
Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen Maker.
I love that.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes. So I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality. And I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired, we're interested in different careers. And just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just
facts.
In terms of political movements, the most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that.
Facts. And this happened within the last, probably, I'll say 5 years. And Kevin Samuels, I think, the reason he blew up so big is because he, at the time, and people don't want to give him his credit, but at the time, Kevin Samuels became so huge because he was in the prime of women taking over social media. I'm talking about to a point to where men were scared to say anything because they thought they were going to lose their jobs, lose their positions. We've seen Kevin Hart lose his job at the Oscars because he made like a dollhouse saying he'll hit his son over the head with a dollhouse if he was gay. And we were watching different examples of men being taken down. And so now men started staying silent. And when the more men that stay silent, this is when the women came through. They started expressing all their thoughts. They started shitting on the men. And no men wanted to fight back because they were scared and they thought they were going to lose it all if they did. So Kevin Samuels popped through the scene and he made it huge. So I will agree with Candace Owens that women for sure today dominate the political space. They control a lot of what goes on in society in terms of what is actually they deem as good or bad or necessary. They can drive agendas. That's what I'm saying. The power that women have, I don't think they truly understand the power that they have. They can drive agendas. They can start movements. They can do all these things. But let's say men wanted to start a movement. against women, that will be World War III. That right there will cause all havoc. So, like I said, women, listen, women, y'all not slick. Y'all not slick. I'm on to y'all. And my guy, Daniel John, is on to y'all. He says feminism is inherently a selfish ideology that teaches women it's all about them and therefore incapable. Oh, shit, I'm tripping. And therefore incompatible with the family unit. Listen, Daniel John, I'm gonna have to get you on one of these shows, man. My next show, I'm definitely try to reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at Donye, my name BC2, and we can chat it up, man. Maybe we can get on here and talk one day. But hey, man, you spitting facts.
If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, when it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male, patriarchy.
Okay, I think love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. Earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? Mm-hmm. So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay. So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of...
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say...
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running?
This woman is just trying to speak big words. Like, anybody else watching this, like, she's hitting on different points and just talking some bullshit, to be honest with you.
For positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
Mm-hmm. This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women? Illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists, because we as Black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Yes.
Sorry, you've been voted out.
I ain't gonna lie, she just hurt my brain. I'm mad that I gotta end my live off of that. But she was just talking a whole lot of, what was her point? What was her point? I'm so confused. Like, she was talking about a lot of illiterate people and people who are illiterate shouldn't be able to vote and things of that nature. Like, okay. Like I said, she is, I don't know. I don't understand what she was talking about.
Thank you for the respectful conversation.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great to meet you. I'm doing
Very
well.
nice to meet you.
So I view this argument as a matter of fact, right? This is a descriptive claim about the culture, reality we live in, and patriarchy being a system in which men hold the predominance of power in both political, economic, and social methods of organization. So S&P 500 companies, 90% of CEOs are men. Board members, 70% of CEOs are men. 70% of congressional members are men. Now, you may provide some sort of naturalistic argument to why that is, but what you're essentially arguing then is that there's a natural patriarchy, which I think feminists would all disagree with. We think that there's a clear social pressure as to why this is. And part of the evidence for that is since feminism's arise within our public culture, we've now seen an explosion of women entering these fields, but we have a long way to go. But fundamentally, the claim regarding patriarchy or matriarchy, we are so much closer to where we were just a few decades ago or a couple generations ago where women couldn't hold a credit card than a system where men can't hold a credit card. We're still much closer to that form of society.
Why would you say that we're closer to that? What do you mean by that? Did you just qualify that?
Because in terms of economic power, so for example, household wealth, women own 55 cents to every dollar a man owns.
Who controls household spending, though? You
Households-
talk about how the money's made in America.
So I have somebody here who said that men still run the country. Problem is most of the ones that do are panders and simps. I can say I agree. Yes, men are in the highest positions. I will say that run the country. I mean, yes. I mean, technically, if you want to talk technical, yes, they run the country. Yes, they can pass bills. Most of them are men who pass bills and things of that nature. Now, control, that's where I think we're going to have a disagreement. I think women control America for sure. I think women have more power in terms of out on these streets than men. In terms of just think about just children wise. If you have a child with a female, she has all control over the child. She can do whatever she wants with the child. She can give it away to adoption. She can abort it. She can proceed to carry it all the way through without your say so at all. So I think that's one example of one of the ways women control it. And also I said with the narratives, women control the narratives that's going on out there. And my guy here, yes, I agree, because simps allow them. Yes, I agree. But also, I will also say, though, that they also do it because punishments. It's not just like the allowing. If I speak freely out here about women, let's say just on different platforms, I'm going to get killed. So it's like also this idea that we got a little bit of wiggle room to maneuver here. And my guy Daniel John again he said 2 words, and I heard the femininity. That's the real objective of feminism. It's easier to conquer a country of feminine men. Yes, the guy who was just talking here is definitely, you can tell he got no sense of he got no sense of masculinity in his bone. He's already complained. My man's gig hustler PJ, man, power of the cat. Yo, that's facts though. These women, man, listen, these women, they are powerful. That's one thing we cannot lie. They are powerful. And then he says women are the greatest consumers. Fact.
Is it being spent?
So
Who spends it?
so it's primarily
Listen,
spent by women.
Listen, I've been on here for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm gonna just react a little bit more to this video, and I'm gonna call it a night, man.
As you've noted, but then
I appreciate anybody who's definitely watching this. Listen, I haven't did a live in I don't know how long, so all the comments, all the supports, I definitely appreciate it, like very, very much. Like I said, I'm gonna do this on Sunday nights. I'm gonna start doing this Sunday nights, try to prepare a show, not just do a whole live stream of just one thing. I think I'm gonna cut it up to different sections, but I definitely liked how today went. I liked how this live went. And like I said, I'm appreciative. I'm thankful for everybody that came in while I'm doing this live. And yeah, y'all gonna keep pushing me to keep going, man.
Money where the profit's being generated. It's being generated by
Would you
men.
rather be the people that are spending and deciding on what the money's being spent on, or would you rather be the person that's just working and to earn that?
Well, CEOs and board members aren't working. They own the shares,
Right.
and they're making the
Yeah,
profit.
well, when you own
You
it,
would- you would-
profit,
you would
making,
much
profit is
rather-
making.
You would much in a capitalist system, by definition, you would much rather be making the profit than spending.
I would much rather be spending your money than having to work for your money. Just so we are
Well,
totally
okay,
clear
well-
here, I would much rather spend
I'm
your
not-
money
I'm not talking-
and have to go out and earn your money.
Well, you're talking about wage laborers in terms of working, but in terms of
No, I'm
who
speaking
actually
about
owns
spending
the
power.
wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, sure. Okay.
But that matters.
Wait,
If
but-
85%
Sure.
of 85 cents of every dollar, how that's being spent, is being determined by women, that's power. That we can't say spending power is not power.
Why do you think that is the case? It's because women are often relegated to the role of doing grocery shopping, etc. Because for millennia now, or from millennia up until now, women were unable to enter the workforce and have economic, political
So
freedom.
let's get into the reasons, because you brought up something that men are the people that are at the top of these companies, these Fortune 500 companies,
and political power.
You're absolutely right. Why is that?
It's primarily because the women haven't broken the ceiling quite yet in terms of meeting men in terms of
Bullshit. The reason the men are in these high positions is because they are working 90 hours a week. They're hustling, they're grinding. Not to say that women can't do that, but most women, I will say, don't want to do that. Then that's what people don't like to talk about, is a lot of these women, they cry and complain that they're not in these CEO positions. They say it's not fair. All men are in control of the world. Men control the world. All men run all these big companies. It's like, in one instance, y'all cry and complain that y'all don't got these CEO jobs, but I don't see none of y'all crying and complaining about all these hard labor jobs that's out here that men are dominating in. Men dominate in labor jobs, construction, truck drivers, anything. We're talking anything out here. Like, in terms of being built, men are the ones doing it. And so if we really want to talk about equality, if we really want to talk about, women should be able to do this and do that, I want to see no marching, go get a truck driver job, marching to go be a bricklayer, marching to go do concrete and construction. Like, let's be equal all around. Why you just want to go for the top CEO jobs that one man can do in the whole country? Like, I'm so confused. If you really cared about equality, you would be showing the same amount of effort to this hard working jobs that men do on a daily basis, like myself, to make sure the world is up and running perfectly. So this narrative that this guy is trying to push, that women just don't have the opportunity, is bullshit. They don't want to do it. They'll never want to do it. When you leave women to choose what they want to do, they go into fields like being a school teacher, being in nursing, doing more softer jobs or more nurturing jobs, because that's their nature. And it's always going to be like that. So this guy can sit here and cry and complain and pander to everybody out here, but he is 100% wrong.
Of parity with these sort of powers. But what
might be a 20 v Don, I might have to pop out on this show one time.
we've seen with the explosion of feminism is that women have actually begun to enter these companies, have risen into both political and economic positions of power. But that continues to grow year by year, which shows that these social pressures are actually breaking apart as soon as feminism comes into play.
So what I
and we
would
start
say is
teaching
what
women,
that shows
different
you
sorts
is
of
that
values.
that women and men have different interests. And I think this gets into what I was saying, that just because you see a disparity does not mean that it's not just a disparity in what our interests are. That's what's being represented. I don't know why there has been this idea that women should want to aspire to work 80 hours a week in order to be on par with men.
Do you think that
doesn't-
interests are innate, or do you think
I
that
think the
social
interests are innate.
So why is it then that, for example, in the 1980s, only a quarter of college graduates were women, where now majority of college graduates are women? That shows that because of the way that social pressures have actually changed, women's interests are actually now changing too. A majority, I think, or at least half of law school graduates are now women. It used to be the case for example, a few hundred years ago, that a lot of primary philosophers like Immanuel Kant, Hegel, didn't even believe women could be reasonable. Now here you are today doing a debate with me where we're using logic and reason to get to these
Absolutely.
and nobody here would dismiss the claim that you can't be rational or logical or be, for example, a great lawyer because
I'll say he's cooking a little bit right now. He's cooking.
you're a woman.
Right. So I totally agree with you that women, but I think they have actually entered into the workforce. I mean, entered into college under this external pressure of feeling that if you don't go to college, you're going to be a failure.
So you admit
and
that
knowing
pressures
that
are a part of the way interests work.
Yes, but we're disagreeing on where the pressure is coming from. Like, I think that now the pressure is that if a woman doesn't enter the force, there's no longer this idea that, okay, we're going to come together as a family, whereas there was this reality that there was this understanding that you would have a partner. People were getting married when they were 18, 19 years old.
Right.
Our grandparents, now it's because of feminism. And I'm saying this is the downside of feminism. Women no longer have that sense. They think
Right.
that they have to be pressured to go take out a loan to go to college, and then you have the pressure to get.
Well, they have the same pressures as men because women
Right.
no longer rely on
But-
it for an income.
Pause.
All right, I'll say that might be the best debate so far, and I'm an hour and 25 minutes into this. But like I said, man, I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you guys. It's been an hour and 25-minute live, and for everybody who put a comment on there, I had about 10 plus comments on my first live. It's crazy. It's crazy. Thank you guys for watching. Look out. I'm gonna definitely try to make 7 reaction videos this week on top of just extra videos. I know some of the videos that I make in terms of me speaking and talking just in general don't get as much views, but I don't really care. I'm gonna just try to post content. If you like the videos, if you like what I'm producing, then please comment underneath, show some love. I really appreciate it. And listen, road to 1,000 subs. That's the goal. I'm gonna keep grinding for it. I'm gonna keep doing what I gotta do. Gig Hustler PJ, thank you for all your comments. Thank you for your support. Thank you for reaching out to me whenever I was slowing down my grind and my hustle and just pushing me a little bit. Daniel John, hopefully, man, you're subbed up to the channel. Thank you for all your comments. Like I said, I'm very thankful for that. Not my name. I don't know who you are, but thank you for the comments too. And yeah, appreciate it, man. Not my name. Why are you scared to put your name on here? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Thanks for the love though, man. Ramsey, my dog Reese popped out. But not my name. Listen, I hope you grinding. I hope you putting in work. You know what I'm saying? I hope you doing what you got to do to be successful. Because listen, anybody around me, anybody that I'm going to be speaking to or doing things with, man, got to be successful. But it's your boy Danye BC2, man. I'm out.